In the process of letting go, you will lose many things from the past, but you will find yourself. Look at your hand right now. Go ahead, really look at it. You see skin, fingers, lines on your palm. But what if I told you that what you're seeing isn't actually there? What if your hand and everything else you think is solid and real is actually 99.99999% empty space, held together by nothing but vibrating energy and your belief that it's solid? What if reality isn't what you think it is? What if you've been living your entire life with blinders on, seeing only a fraction of what's actually there? Here's a question that's going to mess with your head. Can you prove you're awake right now? Not just conscious, but actually awake. Not dreaming, not in a simulation, not experiencing some elaborate illusion. Think about it. When you're in a dream, it feels completely real until you wake up. So how do you know this isn't just another dream? A really convincing one. And here's an even bigger question. What if there's a way of seeing that goes beyond your physical eyes? What if there's a level of perception so profound that it reveals the true nature of reality, a reality your human eyes are completely blind to? Deepak Chopra, one of the world's leading voices on consciousness and spirituality, has spent his entire career exploring this exact question. He talks about something he calls the eyes of consciousness, a way of perceiving reality that transcends the physical senses. And what these eyes see is absolutely mind-blowing. They see that you're not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. They see that time isn't linear. Past, present, and future are all happening right now. They see that your thoughts aren't just random electrical impulses in your brain. They're creative forces that literally shape your reality. They see that death is an illusion, that consciousness never dies, it just changes form. Sounds crazy, right? But stick with me, because in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what Chopra means. I'm going to prove to you, using science, logic, and mind-bending thought experiments, that the reality you think you know is just the tip of the iceberg. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never look at yourself, your life, or the world the same way again. But here's the deal. You have to watch until the very end, because the most powerful revelation, the one that could literally change your life, comes in the final 5 minutes. Miss it, and you'll miss everything. Let's start with something that should freak you out. Your brain is constantly lying to you. And I don't mean occasionally getting things wrong. I mean it's fundamentally incapable of showing you objective reality. Here's why. Everything you experience, everything you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, isn't the actual thing. It's your brain's interpretation of electrical signals. Light waves hit your retina, get converted to electrical impulses, travel through your optic nerve, and your brain reconstructs an image. Sound waves vibrate your eardrum, get converted to signals, and your brain creates the experience of sound. But here's where it gets wild. The colors you see don't actually exist in the external world. Color is just your brain's way of interpreting different wavelengths of light. Red isn't red out there in reality. It's electromagnetic radiation with a wavelength of about 700 nanometers. Your brain sees that wavelength and says, that's red. And get this, not everyone sees the same colors. Some people have 4 types of color receptors instead of 3. They can see millions more colors than you can. Mantis shrimp have 16 types of color receptors. They're seeing a version of reality so different from yours that you literally can't imagine it. So which version is real? The answer, none of them. They're all interpretations. They're all your consciousness creating an experience based on limited data. Now here's where Deepak Chopra takes this further. If your brain is creating your experience of reality based on sensory data, and that sensory data is limited and subjective, then what you call reality is actually a simulation running in your consciousness. It's not the territory, it's a map, and the map is not the territory. Think about phantom limb syndrome. People who've lost an arm or leg still feel it. They can feel pain in a limb that doesn't exist anymore. How? Because the experience of having a body isn't created by the body. It's created by consciousness. The body is just one more thing appearing in consciousness. Your brain creates a stable, consistent model of reality, but that model is based on assumptions, predictions, and shortcuts. Most of what you see isn't actually coming from your eyes. It's being generated by your brain based on expectations. There's a famous experiment where researchers showed people playing cards with the colors reversed, black hearts and red spades. People literally couldn't see them at first. Their brains couldn't process it because it violated expectations. Eventually, after repeated exposure, people would see them correctly, but some people's brains just showed them normal cards. The actual sensory data was overruled by expectation. This is happening all the time. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing your brain's best guess about reality based on incomplete information and past experience. And here's the kicker. If your brain is creating your experience of reality, then by changing your consciousness, by changing your expectations, beliefs, and attention, you can literally change your experience of reality. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is neuroscience, and it's the foundation of everything Chopra teaches about consciousness. Okay, so your brain is creating your experience of reality. But what about objective reality? What about the physical world that exists whether you're looking at it or not? Here's where things get really strange. According to quantum physics, there is no objective physical reality independent of observation. Let me explain what that means. In quantum mechanics, particles don't exist in definite states until they're observed. Before observation, they exist in what's called a superposition, all possible states simultaneously. The famous Schrödinger's cat thought experiment illustrates this. A cat in a box is both alive and dead until you open the box and observe it. Now, most people hear this and think, that's just weird quantum stuff that only applies to tiny particles. But here's the thing. Everything is made of quantum particles. Your body, this screen, the air you're breathing, it's all quantum stuff. Which means reality itself is fundamentally uncertain until consciousness collapses it into a definite state. The observer isn't separate from what's observed. The act of observing changes what's observed. Consciousness isn't just witnessing reality, it's participating in creating it. This is exactly what ancient wisdom traditions have been saying for thousands of years. The Upanishads, ancient Vedic texts, state, the world is as you see it. Not because you're hallucinating, but because consciousness is the ground of all being. Reality emerges from consciousness, not the other way around. Deepak Chopra bridges this gap between ancient wisdom and modern physics. He argues that consciousness isn't something your brain produces. Consciousness is fundamental, and your brain is a tool consciousness uses to have localized experiences. Think about it this way. When you dream, entire worlds appear. Cities, people, conversations, emotions. Where is all that happening? Not in physical space, because if we scanned your brain, we wouldn't find little cities in there. It's happening in consciousness. Your consciousness is generating entire realities in your dreams. Chopra's radical claim is that waking reality works the same way. This physical world is a collective dream, a shared hallucination, being generated by universal consciousness. Your individual consciousness is like a wave on the ocean. You feel separate, but you're made of the same substance as the ocean. You're not in the universe is in you, appearing in your consciousness. And here's the practical implication. If reality is being generated by consciousness, and you are consciousness, then you have much more creative power than you think. You're not just a passive observer of a pre-existing reality. You're an active participant in creating it. Your thoughts aren't just commentary on reality. They're ingredients in reality. Your beliefs aren't just opinions about what's possible. They're filters that determine what possibilities you can perceive and experience. This is why two people can be in the exact same situation and have completely different experiences. It's not just about perspective. It's about consciousness, literally generating different realities based on different beliefs, expectations, and attention patterns. Now let's talk about one of the biggest lies your eyes tell you, that you're separate from everything else. Right now you probably feel like you're a distinct individual located inside your body, looking out at a world that's separate from you. You're in here and everything else is out there. This feels so obviously true that questioning it seems absurd. But what if I told you that this sense of separation is the ultimate illusion? What if you and everything you perceive as other are actually one unified field of consciousness? Let's look at this scientifically first. Where does your body end and the environment begin? Your skin? Seems obvious, right? but you're constantly exchanging matter with the environment. Every breath, you take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. You shed millions of skin cells daily. You absorb photons from light. Bacteria in your gut, which outnumber your human cells, are essential to your survival. Are they you or not you? At the molecular level, the boundary disappears completely. Atoms from the food you eat become atoms in your body. Atoms in your body become atoms in the environment. The atoms in your body right now have been part of countless other organisms throughout history. You're literally made of recycled stardust. And at the quantum level, there's no boundary at all. Particles that were once together remain entangled, affecting each other instantly regardless of distance. Change the spin of one particle, and its entangled partner changes simultaneously, even if it's on the other side of the universe. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but here's what this really means. Separation is an illusion created by perception. At the deepest level, everything is interconnected. Everything is one unified field of energy and information. Chopra takes this scientific reality and connects it to direct experience. He asks, who is the you that's observing your thoughts? When you watch your own thinking, there's a thought, and there's an awareness observing the thought. So which one is you? If you are your thoughts, then who's watching the thoughts? And if you're the observer of thoughts, then you're not the thoughts themselves. You're the awareness in which thoughts appear. Try this right now. Notice a thought. Any thought. I'm watching a video. I'm hungry. Whatever. Now notice that you're noticing the thought. There's a thought, and there's an awareness that knows the thought is there. That awareness, that consciousness, isn't located in your brain. It's not produced by neurons. It's the field in which everything appears. Thoughts, sensations, perceptions, the entire universe. And here's the profound part. That consciousness is the same in everyone. Your individual consciousness is like a wave on the ocean. Different waves look different, move differently, have different shapes, but they're all made of the same water. They're all expressions of the same ocean. When Chopra talks about the eyes of consciousness, he's talking about seeing from the perspective of the ocean, not the wave. Seeing the unity underneath the apparent diversity. Seeing that separation is just a temporary appearance in consciousness. Let's talk about something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. Time doesn't exist the way you think it does. You experience time as linear. Past, present, future, all in a row. You remember yesterday. You're experiencing now. You're anticipating tomorrow. This feels like the fundamental structure of reality. But according to physics, specifically Einstein's theory of relativity, time is relative. It literally moves at different speeds depending on velocity and gravitational fields. Astronauts on the International Space Station age slightly slower than people on Earth. Time is not absolute, it's flexible. But Chopra goes even further than Einstein. He says that past, present, and future are all concepts created by consciousness to organize experience. The only thing that actually exists is the eternal now. Think about it. Can you experience the past? No. You can only experience memories of the past, and those memories are happening now. Can you experience the future? No. You can only experience thoughts or anxiety about the future, and those thoughts are happening now. The only time you ever actually experience is now. Always now. Forever now. The present moment is the only reality. So where are the past and future? They exist as information in consciousness. The past is collapsed possibilities, quantum wave functions that already solidified into specific outcomes. The future is uncollapsed possibilities, potential realities that haven't manifested yet. And here's the wild part. Right now, in this eternal present moment, you have access to all of it. The eyes of consciousness aren't bound by linear time. They can perceive the entire timeline simultaneously because they exist outside of time. This is why people sometimes have precognitive dreams or intuitions about future events. It's why déjà vu feels so strange, like you've experienced this exact moment before. It's because consciousness isn't actually bound by time. Time is a tool consciousness uses to have sequential experiences, but consciousness itself is timeless. And if that's true, then you're not your history. You're not defined by your past. Every moment is a fresh opportunity to collapse new possibilities into being. The version of you that exists right now is not the same as the version that existed a moment ago. You're constantly being created anew in the eternal now. This has profound practical implications. Most people are trapped in their past, carrying old trauma, old beliefs, old identities forward. But if the past doesn't actually exist except as memory, then you're not bound by it. You can rewrite your story. You can choose to collapse different possibilities. The future isn't predetermined. It's a field of infinite potential. And what determines which possibility becomes actual? Your consciousness, your beliefs, expectations, and attention in this present moment. Okay, so if consciousness is primary, if separation is an illusion, if time is relative, what does this mean for your actual life? How does this change anything practical? This is where Chopra's teaching gets really powerful. He talks about what he calls the field of infinite possibilities, the quantum field of pure potential that underlies all physical reality. In quantum mechanics, this is called the zero-point field, or quantum vacuum. It's not empty space. It's a seething ocean of energy and information where particles constantly pop in and out of existence. It's the womb of creation, where everything that can exist potentially exists. And according to Chopra, you're connected to this field at all times. In fact, you are this field, temporarily taking the form of an individual human being. Your consciousness is not separate from the field. It's a localized expression of it. This means you have access to infinite intelligence, infinite creativity, infinite solutions. Not because you're special, but because that's your true nature. You're not a limited physical body with occasional spiritual experiences. You're an infinite spiritual being having a temporary physical experience. But here's the catch. Most people never access this field because their attention is completely consumed by the surface level of reality. They're so identified with their thoughts, their problems, their story, that they never drop below the surface to the infinite depths. Chopra talks about meditation and mindfulness as technologies for accessing the field. When you quiet your mind, when you create space between thoughts, you touch the field of pure consciousness. And in that space, insights arise, solutions appear, creativity flows, healing happens. This isn't mystical, it's deeply practical. Every major breakthrough in science, art, and innovation came from someone accessing a level of consciousness beyond ordinary thinking. Einstein imagined riding a beam of light. Nikola Tesla visualized his inventions in complete detail before building them. Artists and musicians talk about being a channel for creative flow. They weren't just using their brains harder, they were dropping below the thinking mind to access the field of infinite intelligence. And you can do this too, right now. You don't need special training or years of practice. You just need to shift your attention from the contents of consciousness, thoughts, sensations, perceptions, to consciousness itself. That's what the eyes of consciousness see. Not just objects appearing in awareness, but the awareness itself. Not just waves, but the ocean. Not just forms, but the formless intelligence that's generating all forms. Section 6. Healing the body through consciousness. 23:30-27. Let's talk about something that has huge practical implications. The connection between consciousness and the body. Western medicine typically treats the body like a machine. When something breaks, you fix or replace the part. And that's useful for certain things. But it completely misses the role of consciousness in creating and maintaining the body. Deepak Chopra, who trained as a medical doctor before becoming a consciousness teacher, has extensively studied the mind-body connection. And the research is absolutely clear. Your consciousness directly affects your physical body at the cellular level. When you're stressed, anxious, or depressed, your body responds. Cortisol increases, inflammation increases, immune function decreases, cellular aging accelerates. Your genes literally express differently based on your mental and emotional state. This is called epigenetics, the study of how environmental factors, including consciousness, turn genes on or off. You're not just stuck with the genes you inherited. Your consciousness is constantly influencing which genes express and which don't. There are documented cases of people with multiple personality disorder having different allergies, different eyesight, even different diseases depending on which personality is active. Same body, same genes, but different consciousness creates different physical reality. Chopra often cites studies on meditation and aging. People who meditate regularly show significantly slower cellular aging, longer telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes, and better overall health markers. Why? Because meditation accesses the field of consciousness where healing naturally occurs. Your body isn't a solid, fixed thing. It's a dynamic process, constantly being created moment by moment. Every cell is being replaced regularly. You have a new stomach lining every few days, new skin every few weeks, essentially a new body every 7 years. So what's maintaining the patterns? What's maintaining chronic illness, chronic pain, recurring problems? Your consciousness, specifically habitual patterns of thought, belief, and attention. This is revolutionary because it means you're not helpless. You're not a victim of your genetics or your past. Every moment is an opportunity to access a different level of consciousness and allow healing to happen. Now, this doesn't mean you can just think your way out of serious illness or that disease is your fault. That's a dangerous oversimplification, but it does mean that consciousness is a powerful factor in health, probably the most powerful factor, and we've barely begun to tap into its potential. Now let's talk about the thing most people are most afraid of: death. What happens when you die? Does consciousness end? Do you disappear? According to Chopra, and according to every major wisdom tradition throughout history, consciousness doesn't die. It can't die, because consciousness isn't produced by the body. The body is an appearance in consciousness. Think about it this way. When you dream, you have a dream body. Things happen to that dream body. It moves around, has experiences, feels real. But when you wake up, that dream body disappears. Did you die? No, you just shifted levels of consciousness. Chopra suggests that physical death is like waking up from a dream. The body-mind you identified with dissolves, but the consciousness that was having the experience continues. It returns to the field of infinite potential and then takes on new forms. Now I know this sounds like belief, like faith, like wishful thinking. But here's why Chopra argues it's actually the most logical conclusion. First, consciousness is clearly not produced by the brain. If it were, then where does consciousness go when you sleep? Your brain is still functioning, but your everyday consciousness disappears and a dream consciousness appears. Consciousness isn't tied to brain states. It's more fundamental than the brain. Second, if consciousness is primary, if reality emerges from consciousness rather than consciousness emerging from reality, then consciousness must be eternal. You can't destroy something that was never created. Consciousness just is. Third, the law of conservation of energy says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. If consciousness is a form of energy, which quantum physics suggests it is, then it can't end. It can only change form. The fear of death comes from identifying with the wave instead of the ocean. When you think you are this particular body, this particular personality, this particular story, then death is terrifying. It's the end of everything you are. But when you realize you're the ocean temporarily experiencing itself as a wave, death becomes just a transition. The wave dissolves back into the ocean. The ocean doesn't die. It just stops being that particular wave and becomes available for infinite new forms. The eyes of consciousness see this clearly. You are not mortal. The form you're wearing is temporary, but what you truly are, pure consciousness, is eternal. Okay, I know we've covered a lot of deep, complex stuff. So let me break this down in the simplest way possible. So simple that even a kid could get it. Imagine you're watching a movie. The movie has characters, a story, drama, conflict, resolution. While you're watching, you might get emotionally invested. You might cry, laugh, feel scared or excited. The movie feels real. But here's the thing. You're not in the movie. You're sitting in a theater watching images on a screen. The characters aren't real people. They're actors. The story isn't really happening. It's a carefully constructed narrative, and you, the viewer, are safe outside the movie the whole time. Now, what if your life is like that movie? What if this physical reality, your body, your problems, your fears, your dreams, is like the movie? And what if the real you, consciousness, is like the viewer, sitting safely outside the movie, watching it unfold? Your human eyes only see the movie. They see the characters, the drama, the apparent reality on screen. They get completely absorbed in it. They forget it's just a movie. But the eyes of consciousness see the viewer. They see beyond the screen. They know that no matter what happens in the movie, no matter how scary or sad or dramatic, the viewer is always okay. The viewer was there before the movie started and will be there after it ends. And here's the cool part. The viewer isn't just passively watching. The viewer's consciousness is actually creating the movie. Every belief, every thought, every bit of attention is shaping what appears on screen. Don't like the movie? You can change it. Not by trying to manipulate the characters or force the plot, that's exhausting, but by shifting your consciousness, by changing your beliefs and expectations, by looking through different eyes. When Deepak Chopra talks about the eyes of consciousness, he's inviting you to remember, you're not the character in the movie. You're the consciousness watching it, creating it, experiencing it, and once you remember that, everything changes. The dramas don't disappear, but they don't control you anymore. The problems don't vanish, but they don't define you anymore. You can engage with life fully while knowing that what you truly are is untouchable, eternal, infinite. So here we are. We've journeyed through quantum physics, neuroscience, philosophy, and ancient wisdom. We've explored how your brain creates reality, how consciousness is fundamental, how separation is an illusion, how time isn't real, how you're connected to infinite possibilities. But here's the crucial question. So what? What are you going to do with this information? Because knowledge about consciousness isn't the same as conscious awareness. Understanding these concepts intellectually is interesting, but it won't change your life. What changes your life is direct experience. Chopra isn't asking you to believe anything. He's inviting you to look, to shift your attention from the objects appearing in consciousness to consciousness itself, to experience, even for a moment, what it's like to see with the eyes of consciousness instead of just human eyes. And I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't easy. Your entire life, you've been trained to pay attention to the contents of awareness. Thoughts, sensations, perceptions, problems, goals. You've been trained to identify with the wave and forget the ocean. Breaking that habit takes practice. It takes willingness to question everything you think you know. It takes courage to look beyond the familiar surface of reality into the vast unknown depths. But it's also the most natural thing in the world. Because you are consciousness. You always have been. You've just been so focused on the movie that you forgot you're the one watching it. So here's my invitation. Actually, it's Chopra's invitation. I'm just the messenger. Spend some time today in silence. Not doing, not thinking, not trying to achieve anything. Just being. Just noticing what it's like to be aware. Notice your breath. Notice thoughts appearing and disappearing. Notice sensations in your body. And most importantly, notice the awareness that's noticing all of this. That awareness is what you truly are. It's always been there, hiding in plain sight. You've just been too busy looking at everything else to notice it. And once you start noticing it, once you start seeing with the eyes of consciousness, your whole life transforms. Not because your external circumstances change, but because your relationship to them changes. Problems that seemed overwhelming become manageable. Questions that seemed impossible become irrelevant. And the peace, joy, and creativity that's your true nature starts flowing naturally. This is the promise of awakening. Not that life becomes perfect, but that you realize the perfection that's already here. Not that you become enlightened, but that you recognize you've always been the light. All right, so here's what I want you to do right now. First, if this video opened your mind even a little bit, if it made you question reality in a new way, if it sparked something inside you, hit that subscribe button right now. Because we're going deep into consciousness, reality, quantum physics, spirituality, and the biggest questions humans have ever asked. This is just the beginning. Second, drop a comment below and tell me, Have you ever experienced what Chopra is talking about? Have you ever had a moment where you saw beyond the physical, where you touched something infinite? Or maybe you think this is all philosophical BS and reality is exactly what it appears to be. I want to hear your perspective. I want to know where you're at. Because this is what is beautiful. We are all in this together. We are all waves in the same ocean, trying to remember that we are the ocean. Your perceptions matter. Your questions matter. Your journey matters. Third, try the practice I mentioned. Just 5 minutes today in silence. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just sit and observe. Observe your thoughts. Observe your breath. And observe the consciousness behind it all. That's where everything we've talked about ceases to be theory and becomes direct experience. Remember, you are not a limited human being having occasional spiritual experiences. You are infinite consciousness having a temporary human experience. And the more you remember this truth, the more you live from this truth, the more your life becomes an expression of the infinite. The eyes of consciousness are already open. You have always been seeing through them. You simply forgot to notice. Stay aware and continue exploring the apparent chaos of this existence that shapes itself in the infinity of who you truly are. Click on the video that appeared to you because what I'm about to show you will make you question the veracity of this reality. See you there.